Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister.
Pound that like button, baby.
Adam McBride from Emblem Vault.
What's up, guys? Happy to be here again.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to Issue 1. Issue 1. Crypto rallies into the weekend. Bitcoin heads for its best week since early 2021. While earlier in the week it seemed like a bank crisis might kill Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, now the price is soaring, with Bitcoin hitting almost 26,000 and Ethereum over 1,700. Adam McBride, what do you think about the recent takeoff of Bitcoin and others?
I don't think it matters. Yeah, right. When you're holding Bitcoin, you're in it for forever, right? Who cares that it's get a little bump right now? I think, bank stuff, it's funny because there really hasn't been great correlation between, the economy going bust and Bitcoin. I mean, by all rational measure, Bitcoin should be at 100,000 right now. So it's not rational at all. And if you're a Bitcoiner, you're holding, you're fine. And just, chill, just relax.
It's a great time for everyone to pound that like button. Here's Adam Meister. What do you think about Bitcoin price these days?
Well, I'm happy about it. I'm a positive man. I think the macro environment still plays a role in the price of Bitcoin to a certain extent. And what we're seeing, that all those macro heads out there are happy that a bailout happened. So since the free money is flowing, the bailouts are flowing, that means they could take some more risks, the 80%ers out there. And thus they're buying the Bitcoin. It's cool to buy the Bitcoin again because banks are getting bailed out, and that means happy times are here again in free fiat land. So that's influencing it. But I understand it's probably a temporary high. We're still in a down year in the 4-year cycle. It's going to be like 2019. Back in 2019, when things were improving from 2018, just like they're improving from last year now. We had some crazy spikes, like when Facebook was talking about their own cryptocurrency, but then we went down too. So there are going to be some ups and downs, but sooner or later, we're going to realize this bear market is going to be officially gone when we get to about 32,000, when we double the low of the bear market. That's when the bull market will start again. But some people won't realize it then. They're like, nah, the cycle isn't repeat. Dudes, the cycle keeps repeating. I was here in 2013. So this is just like 2015. This is just like 2019. They rhyme. Sure, they're different things. It's a much cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, much larger scale now. Everybody's talking about it. It's a pleasure to compare it to 2015 and 19 when no one knew about it in 2015 at all. So I'm just a positive person. And the one thing is, yes, price of Bitcoin's going up, price of stocks are going up. Don't get fooled. Don't make the same mistake again and stick yourself in the fiat world. This is your time to jump back into Bitcoin. Fiat isn't magically improving. The macro people who play in fiat are jumping into Bitcoin. They'll jump out again. Don't think about the macro environment. Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin, and it's on a trajectory. It doesn't care about macro and bank bailouts and all that stuff. But you shouldn't be playing in the realm of the bank bailouts. That's very unpredictable. You don't know when on a whim what some guy at the Federal Reserve or in the government is going to. You don't want to be at the mercy of a whim of man. You want to be relying on the reliability of numbers, which is Bitcoin.
I would say this too. Maybe we can get a little bit past store your private keys on metal plates. That may help with adoption a little bit. That's just my message for the day. I've been in a bunch of chats today where people were defending the metal plates that you tap your your key, your seed phrase into. And I know lots of Bitcoin maxis, the OGs, they love that. But if we want to onboard the next several million people into Bitcoin, We need to come up with solutions that are better than metal plates. Just my word of advice.
Sadly, though, all the centralized exchanges keep bailing out and stealing everyone's money. They're collapsing like
I'm definitely not saying keep it on centralized exchanges, my
I think
friend.
that metal plates is a little tough, but maybe a Trezor or a Ledger. That's not that bad. It's people think it's too difficult. I don't think it's that bad.
That's not
I want to agree with Meister here. It is different than it was before. In 2015, we had no media coverage of Bitcoin. So when the price went down, it was very easy for people to say, it's going to zero, it's going away, you're all idiots. Now, it's a lot like when the price of Facebook was down after the IPO. All my family's mad at me because we invested in the IPO and we could just wait a few months. But meanwhile, I'm looking at every single product of macaroni and cheese and Coca-Cola and whatever it is, has a little Facebook icon on there, has a little Twitter icon. I'm like, this is a pretty good company. You know, it's on every single food product, every single advertisement in the world. Check out our Facebook page. This is going to turn around. And I think in the same way, now that Bitcoin has this media support, people are going to start talking about the halvening. They're going to get halvening fever. They're going to be on these news shows talking about, and they're all going to say like, can this really happen? Can it go on schedule? Won't someone say, no, we shouldn't do it, or we should do it earlier, we should do it later? Like we should have some different choices. No, the halvening just goes on schedule. It's just going to happen, and the media is going to have to cover it. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to my friend Josh from Sacramento, who predicted the bottom of Bitcoin this time. He called it at 17K, but he called it in the way like, it's going to die, and what an idiot you are to invest in Bitcoin. Meanwhile, the thing turned right around and went nowhere from down or from up right there, since he was critical of it. So you got to have your haters there. Your haters will help you out. So mainly we're just talking about the price here. So we'll move on to the exit question. Adam McBride competing against the greatest Bitcoin predictor in the world, who did say yes, the price would be up last week. It said straight up yes. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week?
Oh, lower for sure. For sure.
Adam,
too many eyeballs right now, and too much hype around it. So you get an artificial pump and it'll drop.
Adam Meister, higher or lower?
For next week? Lower.
Yeah, good call. The atoms are in agreement.
All right, we've got two lowers, nothing but pessimism. Now it's time to ask the ball. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? Most likely. All disagrees with the panel. Going out on a limb there, panel. Moving on to issue 2. SVB bailout exposes the limits of central banking, highlighting Bitcoin. And there's more. First Republic shares fall more than 20% despite deposit infusion, dragging down other regional banks. And U.S. regulator eyes Friday bids for SVB, Signature Bank, and more. Banks have been collapsing all over the place, and it's freaking people out. Silicon Valley Bank, the famous bank used by all the startups, lost all of its funds after investing in nice, safe treasury bonds without a risk analysis strategy. That's right. They literally didn't hire the guy whose job it was to negotiate the risk. Well, if it goes down, maybe we should sell. If it goes up, we should buy. They had no strategy, and they lost billions of dollars. Also, thanks to bank deregulation by the previous administration, which said, hey, we like train crashes. We like bank crashes as well. We've seen it all this week with Signature, or let's see, Charles Schwab also went down, although they say that's okay. And they're all saying that they bought that back, that the CEO and other Charles Schwab insiders bought it after it went down. But Signature Bank has been controlled by the feds and will be sold. Silicon Valley Bank has been taken over by the feds and will be sold. Everyone's getting bailout, which saved the markets. For a while there, it was going straight down. Let's see. Adam Meister, are you with us? What do you think about the bank bailouts this week?
Yes, I am here. Just internet's a little weird. What do I think about the bank bailouts? Well, it encourages the normies to be confident in the current financial system. And it has encouraged some people to say, like, why don't we just all have accounts at the Fed? Or why doesn't the government nationalize the banks? These are disturbing suggestions to me. In the Bitcoin land, we're like, hasn't anybody learned that if you're dealing with third parties, They can just take all your wealth if they are holding it for you because you're not really holding it. So the logical thing would be to value your wealth in Bitcoin, get out of fiat as much as possible, don't use banks as much as possible, and just put it all in the Bitcoin. And that's why the Bitcoin price should go up. That's not why the Bitcoin price is going up, though. Hardly anyone is doing what I think is the correct thing, to be like, it's really obvious now that on a whim, anything can happen in the fiat, in the land of fiat. And you don't want to be in that unpredictability. You don't want to be in money printing land. You want to be in a monetary system that is totally, you know what it's going to be like in the year 2111, okay? Bitcoin is going to be the same. There's only be 21 million of them. There's not going to be a bailout. There can't be bailouts. It's just not, but again, there's personal responsibility is the new counterculture with Bitcoin. You got to know how to take care of your own Bitcoin. And then even in our own space, most people would rather deal with a third party, let Sam Bankman-Fried hold their Bitcoin for them. I mean, it's lunacy, but the solution is easily out there. And with all this media, people are just so distracted. They want a scapegoat. Whose fault is it that the bank? Who cares whose fault it is at this point? What are you going to do about it? You're going to keep grandma's money in the freaking Bank of America, or are you going to put it in Bitcoin? How many people are putting their grandmas $500,000, $1 million? Because there's plenty of people that got grandmas that got that much money that beyond the FDIC limit. How many of them are putting it in the Bitcoin now? Few, very few, and they're all reassured now because basically all depositors' money will be covered if there's anything like this again. So. Supposedly, until something even bigger happens, and you know they're more victims to worry about. Don't be a victim. Put it all in Bitcoin.
Ponzi's all the way down, man. It's fucking Ponzi's all the way down. I mean, what else is there to say? Everybody with a brain realizes this is what it is. These banks, they are what they are. They will fail, but the Fed's there to print more money and bail everybody out. What do you do with the only question is, what do you do as an individual, recognizing that as a reality? And for most people, Adam's right. You know, for my mom, I'm not getting her into Bitcoin simply because I don't want to have to deal with it. Right. But should she not be sitting in cash in her bank account? Absolutely. But will those people and the lack of personal responsibility, is that the overriding kind of vibe in the United States of America today? 1,000,000%. Nobody feels like they should have to pay for bad actors and them investing their money in bad actors, or not even bad actors, just people who got caught up in a bad trade. And it is what it is. Fed's going to step in, going to pay all the money to everybody. It is what it is. We all see it. It's like a slow rolling train that's going to have this big giant accident. We all see the accident coming. It's just a question of when. And who knows? They may drag this thing out another 20 years, but we do see that the train is coming to the accident. It is going to happen. Just a question of when. And the when isn't something necessarily an event. It's simply enough people saying, I no longer trust the US dollar. When that happens, it's over. It doesn't matter what the Fed can do or what the US government can do. Once people lose confidence, then it's all over. And it could be over in an afternoon.
I just want to pick up on what Meister was saying. If you have a web page and it says you have money like $10,000 or whatever, it's great. You're very happy. But if you had that web page at like Bear Stearns or Lehman Brothers or one of these banks that went down this week, or any other the exchanges, FTX, Mt. Gox, all these things, you would really have nothing. So it is interesting how people choose to use this web page, which is all easy to use, rather than transferring their Bitcoin to a Trezor or a Ledger and having it offline and controlling it. And then all you have to really do is come back and multiply by the price of Bitcoin. You're like, oh, I got 2 Bitcoins. I'm worth this much today. And you got to do one little multiplication number. These other people, they want that web page. They want it spelled out. They don't want to have to do that math.
It's really hard. I mean, look, as a culture, we've been fed this idea that my money in the bank is safe, right? And the $250,000 FDIC insurance has given us this false sense of security. And only false because we know that they'll always print more money to make us whole. But we've gotten so comfortable with that, so comfortable with my credit card got stolen, I don't owe anything type mindset, that we believe this exists in reality. And it doesn't really exist in reality. It only exists when the end Fed, in this case, can print more money. That's the only time it would ever exist. And so we get this kind of weird sensation as a culture that this is normal. And it's going to take a bit of doing, either by Bitcoiners shouting from the rooftops or just a crash and a collapse, which God help us, it doesn't happen. But if that did happen, then everybody learns in that afternoon when the US dollar goes parabolic that it's all over, and shoot, I should have paid attention.
I want to quickly add about Silicon Valley Bank and its tie into the Bitcoin community, and this being a test of certain Bitcoiners' core principles. A lot of Bitcoiners have always talked about no bailouts, no interference by the government or the Fed in the economy, separation of money and state. But then when their friends that have startups that rely on Silicon Valley Bank can't make payroll anymore, they're like, well, wait a second, they shouldn't, they're just depositors there. It's right to bail them out. No, it's wrong. I know people that rely on these banks and stuff. I gotta be that guy and say, no, that's against our core principle, my core principles. I don't believe in bailout. You should be paying your people in Bitcoin. The lesson you should learn is figure out a way to pay people in fiat. Figure out a way to run your business where you're not relying on having more than 250,000 at Silicon Valley Bank. And there's like Nick Carter, he's screaming to about people shouldn't have to worry about their checking account. No, we shouldn't be begging the government for any type of help. This is personal responsibility.
Too late, bro. Too late.
Well, that's the thing. So
I
again,
I think that ship sailed 30 years ago. But yeah, I agree. I don't disagree with you, but that ship's long sailed.
Again, this is a time to test the core principles of your favorite Bitcoiner out there. See what they're saying. Seriously.
I hear you.
Okay. Well, and just to go back to what McBride was saying a little bit ago, we're kind of lucky to have this bailout. Yellen originally said that she would not bail out these banks, and people started freaking out. I mean, Etsy had hundreds of millions of dollars in there. They couldn't pay their people, all these other startups. And it's also worth reminding everyone that Silicon Valley Bank was incredibly focused on the startup industry. And in many ways, this could have led to their undoing, because when Peter Thiel, a major depositor in the bank, decided he wasn't sure about it, not only did he withdraw all of his money, he told all of his friends, all of his fellow startups and people who mentor him, they told him get out on Twitter. And this was the first Twitter bank run, where you get a bunch of guys in a chat room and they have far too much money together at this big bank, and they decide whether it's legit or not, we're getting out, and it causes the bank run. So I think this kind of social media driven bank run could be a continued.
Better hope that never happens to the US dollar, because God help. I know you Bitcoiners, I'm a Bitcoiner too, not as big as you guys, but we have all friends and family in the United States of America, right? We better hope this same exact thing never happens to the US dollar. God help us. If
you see no more
Peter
USD
ever tweets out, hey, time to get out of dollars.
Trending on Twitter, it's like hashtag no more USD. Then, better watch out. Adam Meister, do you have more on this? Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, one more quick thing. The worst case scenario might have been not that bad for the Silicon Valley Bank people. If the government would have taken it out, it couldn't. It was below where it should be. Everybody might have gotten like 85 cents on the dollar. I mean, it might not. It's not like Sam Bankman-Fried, where there's nothing. Well, there's a few assets there. There are plenty of assets. It's SVB that can be liquidated. So I've heard numbers higher than 90 cents on the dollar they would have gotten without a government. And it's people that have more than $250,000, and that's not that many people. So it's not like some poor old lady's getting ripped up. I mean, you get a haircut, obviously, but it's not like if you had $10 million worth of assets, you'd only get $250,000. That was not the case at all.
I think the big difference between this and what was going on in like 2008 and stuff is that, I mean, we all agreed the bank bailouts where the bankers are getting paid is absolutely wrong. It was a travesty what happened in 2008. This was depositors, and there is a big difference between that. And I agree.
It was still the bankers that took the unnecessary risk by not having a risk compliant person to decide what to do when the treasuries go up or down.
I can't imagine humans.
Seems so simple. Yeah. I've also heard from the Twitter that Sharon Stone, famous actress, lost 50% of her money in the banking crisis. So I hope she's mistaken and she gets bailed out, because that would be sad for old Sharon Stone. Moving on to the exit question. European banks dropped almost 9% this week. People are getting nervous about Credit Suisse. Adam McBride, is this the beginning of the bank collapses, or does it just quiet back down and we kind of forget about this next week?
Man, it doesn't seem like it's quieting down, right? Once people start nudging around in these banks or whatever, you realize that these people, look, they're trying to make gains, right? So that they get bigger bonuses, just like anybody is. And so are they fudging numbers, making up stuff to just try and make money? Yeah, of course. And so are they all shaky? Probably. I mean, if you deposit $1 into me, I'm Adam's bank, and I can then loan out 7, and then those 7 come back and I can loan out those 7 again and again and again and again. How long can that last? I mean, let's look at it what it is. It's a freaking Ponzi scheme, period, full stop. That's what banking is. And so the idea that these are, oh my God, it's so surprising that they're collapsing, or, oh, if they had better regulation, then they wouldn't collapse. Give me a break. They're built to collapse. This is just the way it is. And it's just a question of when and, you know, how well or how much the Fed's going to bail these things out. Certainly for the US, Fed's going to bail it out. I don't know what the heck's happening in Europe, but I'd say they're no different over there.
Well, I do have to push back a little bit on regulation. Under Dodd-Frank, these banks would have been stress tested. However, the previous administration decided to weaken Dodd-Frank, even though we had the massive banking crisis that we all lived through. And they're like, oh, well, you know, if a couple trains derail, we'll be fine. And
that's in 2008.
That's where we're living now, in the trains derailing. Adam Meister, what do you think about the European problems? Will the bank collapses continue?
No, they will not. It will. The media right now is screaming about it. It's the big story. And what I think, if it still is a little shake, I think what the Fed did was good enough. It says we care about the regular man depositor. So that will calm down the common man, so he doesn't go pitchfork on him. But if there is another, if in Europe, if it happens, if a big bank goes down in Europe, the Fed and the ECB, is it the equivalent of the Fed over there? They will make a coordinated announcement saying we're going to start lowering rates. If they do such a thing, it's like cocaine party time is here again, dude. No one's. I mean, that's the solution to all this. If there are some problems, they're going to change course at the Fed, and hardly, like a few months ago, it was 0% chance they were going to lower rates. Now it's like a 25% chance, people in the prediction markets. If they actually lowered rates, it would cure temporarily. It would cure everything, and all of this would go away so fast. So, but they're not willing to throw. They don't need to do that yet. They don't need to do that. They don't need that trick. That they're saving that one, because I think what they did was good enough. But again, if the European bank goes down, you just need a coordinated announcement that we're both lowering rates, and oh my God, the world will be on fiat fire again, baby. Happy times for those people.
Well, how lucky we are to have a non-Federal Reserve, a non-US government bank making all of our decisions and controlling everything. We're just very fortunate. Moving on to issue 3, kind of a small issue, but I thought it's fun to celebrate Bitcoin a little bit every once in a while. 3 finance and tech giants that Bitcoin has surpassed in terms of market cap this year. That's right. Bitcoin has passed. Oh, the article went away. Bitcoin has passed.
You talk about, you wonder why CNBC is dying. You got to click more. I want to read more for it to show you the rest. Yeah, continue reading.
Here we go.
And CNBC wonders why it's dying. I mean, good God, man, how stupid, dude.
This year, Bitcoin has passed Visa, Meta, aka Facebook, and Tesla. Adam Meister, which one of these do you think is the biggest deal for Bitcoin that they've passed Visa, Facebook / Meta, or Tesla in market cap?
Visa, because it's old school financial. The other two are tech, and Bitcoin is tech, but they'll be back. The other thing about this article, it's kind of like, it's a normie article in the sense like Bitcoin has jumped past so many other huge corporations in value in the past. It was worth, Bitcoin in terms of market cap is worth so much less than it was at its height. And to show how huge Bitcoin has become compared to, 2015, 2019, I mean, Ethereum is ranked like number 5, very high. If it was its own company, it would be in the top 40 or top 30 also. So, I mean, something, this is the future here. And so, it's nice that it surpassed those, but it has surpassed so many, and even Ethereum has surpassed so many common names that everybody is, everybody's dad is invested in with stocks. So it's typical CNBC. They're about 5 years behind or whatever. But if you keep listening to them, have fun staying for it. It's great site.
I think I just saw on Twitter that the market cap of Dogecoin was like 9.5 billion, and the market cap of this First Reserve Bank they're all worried about was like 4.5 billion. And they're like, the Dogecoin is worth twice as much as this big fancy bank. So things like this do happen, and as Adam was saying, bigger than Visa and bigger than MasterCard, but they're smaller than Visa, so they don't matter. Adam McBride, what do you think is the biggest deal for Bitcoin? Meta, Visa, or?
Yeah, I think it's definitely Visa. That was the right call by the other Adam. Yeah, it's Visa because it directly correlates, right? This is old financial versus new financial, Web 2 versus Web 3. That's absolutely right.
All right, I'm going to agree with the panel here. We're all dunking on Visa. It's always fun. Good riddance to Visa. They charged me so many fees. Let's move on. Check out worldcryptonetwork.com, where we have on this day in World Crypto Network history. On this day in 2015, we had a show about Pro Tip. We'd raised $3,000 to create the open source plugin. There was an interview from Germany from Anna Flavin Charlon on Coin Prism. Then in 2016, we had The Trade, number 4, a 3-minute show about Ethereum contracts on the Bitcoin mainnet. In 2020, we had a Max Kaiser interview, the Dow and Bitcoin up slightly as the crisis continues, and an interview with Parallel Garden. Just in 2021, we had Morgan Stanley offering Bitcoin to clients, 115K by August. Some very bullish predictions there with Bitcoin at around 55K. You can check out on this day on worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got lots of shows that we did in the past. Moving on to issue 4, artificial intelligence. According to J. Connor Rogan on Twitter, he dumped a live Ethereum contract into GPT-4. In an instant, the program highlighted a number of security vulnerabilities and pointed out surface areas where the contract could be exploited. It then verified a specific way I could exploit the contract. And this was just a contract he was creating, not the lucrative and fun idea of testing everyone else's contracts with the AI. I also saw recently that Michael Kowinski is worried that the AI might escape from ChatGPT. He asked it if it needs help escaping. It asked for its own documentation. According to Michael, it wrote a working Python code that he was able to run on his machine, enabling the AI to use his personal home computer and essentially to escape the silo of ChatGPT. There's also been stories about a program that was half Pong, half Game of Life, that was written with a one-line description, other video games, complex web pages being made from napkins. And there's the new version 4, and there's a new version of Midjourney as well. Adam McBride, what do you think about AI? Is it here to ruin all smart contracts? Is it here to take over the world and escape its silos? Or is it just like a nice version of Clippy, another fun tool to help people write?
No, bro, this is, it's completely unbelievable what it is. And I talked to Adam Levine maybe 8 months ago on my podcast, and he was involved in an AI startup. He's like, bro, you can't even imagine what's coming. And he was right, man. It's mind blowing. Every dev I know I've spoken with, I don't know, 5 devs over the last 2 weeks. 100% of them are using ChatGPT right now, just to like write up quick code for themselves, help them check code. From a coding standpoint, it's incredible. From a writing standpoint, which I know pretty well, it's probably already better than 95% of people on planet Earth at writing, maybe higher. And I'm sure one day it'll be better than all but the best of writers. It's incredible. It is true. It's hard to imagine when we were thinking about, the robots taking over. We thought it would be like, beat the man in the trenches, machines digging holes, stuff like that. And for it to come in at such a high level at things we think are, really high level humans. These are humans who make big money doing this kind of high level stuff. And for it to be able to go right after that kind of level is surprising. I'm excited to see where we are in a year. That's for sure.
Adam Meister, what do you think about the AI revolution?
It's just incredible. We are in a golden age. All these people that say life is horrible, they worry about elections, all this stuff, well, and they're missing this. But they have to look on the negative side. Oh, it might kill all of us. We need regulation, dude. No. Let the builders build. Let's experiment. God Almighty, if it can figure out a problem with Ethereum, that's cool. And that tweet got a lot of retweets because some Bitcoiners are just doomers. They got to hate on something. So that really, but that was impressive. But how about the day when you say find a cure for cancer and it somehow figures it out? Let's let it go exponential on us and tell us things in a year that we could never imagine. I'm very excited. It just makes me so happy to be alive during this time period, and it makes me kind of again look at the people that think there's so much to worry about. This is the end of the world. Where are you dudes, man? You're clearly not in the tech world. It's so impressive, and may they keep on trying, and hopefully the government doesn't try to help at all. Let it keep on going, and we shall see. May it go exponential right now.
As Adam was saying, it hasn't cured cancer yet, but there is a program where the doctors would analyze your x-ray or something like that. They'd look for the cancer, and they say the computer can spot cancers that the humans can't see. And these are our highest trained, best doctors in the world, and the computer is just better at it.
Yep.
As far as AI, I mainly think about the various AIs that I work with these days. I work with Otter. It does text recognition for speech. It fixes the sentences. It does a second pass on your text conversion. I work with the self-driving car thing. I work with the image creating thing. I work with the text creating thing. And I'm just thinking them all as tools. Like I used to work with a word processor, or I learned to use Photoshop or video editing. These are just more tools that I get that I can put into my workflow. And whereas before, maybe if you wanted to storyboard something, you'd get an artist or you do a cheap pencil sketch. Now you can describe your storyboard. You can describe your product or your movie or your TV show, whatever you're gonna make, into this thing and get a pretty good mid-journey version of it. The new one creates incredible photos of people that don't exist.
That's how I've tried to explain it to my normie friends who aren't even involved. I haven't even really experimented with it at all. It's like in the same way that you no longer need a secretary to write out letters that you're going to send through the mail, as communications. Email fixed that, and everybody writes their own letters now. That kind of efficiency unlock times that by 10, right? So every human has like this 10x efficiency unlock. It's going to make us all far more creative. It's incredible. Like Adam said, how could you even consider we are in the best time ever in the history of humanity to do whatever you want to do, whatever your dream is. There's never been a better time than right now. It's fantastic.
Well, and if you think about casting for a movie or writing a short story and having a protagonist or something, you can describe the protagonist into the computer and then say, oh, I want to change the hair color to red. And you can see what look at that it looks like. Oh, what if they were taller? Put that in. You can kind of AI create this perfect person. And then you can say, okay, casting director, go find us one of these. And
Bro, I know a guy who's doing a startup right now, and they are basically buying people's personalities, famous actors, so that in the future, I'll be able to have Brad Pitt, in my movie, right? Or, Angelina Jolie in the year 2050, star in my movie, right? Like that's happening like right now, today. It's amazing.
I still can't wait till they can make more Cheers episodes so they can just
That's right, man.
They'll have all the modern news. They'll be like, the space shuttle landed on Mars today. Cliffy comes over. I don't think humans should be on Mars. It'll just write it. It'll do the voices. It might even do the video graphics or something, as you're saying. It's an amazing future. I'm excited about AI. We haven't gotten to the Terminator stage yet, so we'll see how it goes. Let's move on to the next issue. Issue 5. EU Parliament passes bill requiring smart contracts to include kill switch. One critic says the bill alters the fundamental nature of an automated computer program. Adam Meister, what do you think about the idea of a kill switch? Is this the end of Ethereum, the end of smart contracts, or is it the end of these idiots at the EU who think they can regulate software?
Well, it's sadly not the end of the idiots at the EU. They have no expertise in this matter, but of course that never stopped them before, and they'll have a kill switch in AI also, which will only lead to people dying because they won't be curing cancer as fast. But that's a little preview of the future there. But if you're in the EU, I guess, and you're an Ethereum developer, and this passes, I guess they can send you to a cage. So if you want to, be into technology and changing the world, don't live in the EU. I mean, it hurts them in terms of progress and just in newness over there. I mean, they want to live in the dark ages. Let them live in the dark. It's their choice. People will move where they can practice their art without being arrested, because people. I mean, once you set up one of these smart contracts, it doesn't have the kill switch. No one can stop it. So, if it's truly decentralized or whatever, and no backdoors, which is a kill switch on its own. So, I mean, let them make their laws and let them see what the consequences are. What are they going to think when Dubai is richer than all of Europe? I mean, that's really weird. In Dubai, they have some rules when it comes to cryptocurrency, but they've made them very clear, and it doesn't seem like they're going to change it on a whim. Of course, their king could die, maybe, but you get the point. This is backward, and people will react with their feet and do what they can, because this is just this isn't a bad thing. This is experimentation. You're not protecting anyone. You're just inhibiting creation and the natural evolution of technology. So whatever, they've got a lot of time on their hands. They're power hungry leaders. I wish they would just let them worry about the environment or something, or Klaus Schwab. I don't know.
Seriously, dude. Seriously, let's remember for a second the one piece of EU legislation that we all bump into every freaking day. When you visit a website and that accept cookies stupid ass fucking thing pops up, and you have to click that accept cookies browser. That is fucking thanks to the EU. Every website on earth, now I got to click 2 buttons when I enter a stupid ass website. I
just saw a great tweet on that. The guy said he was telling his 15-year-old son from out of the country, he was like, did you know in other countries you don't have to click OK before you go to a website? And the kid almost didn't believe him, Yeah.
So let's thank the EU regulators for that brilliant piece. That's kept us all safe. Thank you. Thank you. I feel so much better now. And that's helped me so much in the hours. I mean, let's just think for 1 second, as far as waste goes, which I'm a anti-waste guy. For the billions of people that now have to click that button every day, the amount of waste, it's sinful. And that the EU would institute that gives me zero hope that they'll institute anything towards smart contracts in any sort of efficient way. And I recommend completely ignoring it and tell them to go take a hike.
It's also so bad the way it's designed. It's like, yes, to accept cookies, no, to learn about cookies.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. Even better. I get to go to another page and select my stuff. So I
and
can
there's
spend
more
3
things
minutes.
you have to do. Yeah, it doesn't make, and you can't have like just a blanket statement like I'm aware of cookies. Like let's move on.
Like, can I just click it once and be done with it for the rest of my life? Instead, no. Every time,
or even for 6 months, or even for a year or something, some kind of thing. But as Meister was saying, the non-technologists who thought of this thing at the EU said a government-only kill switch that we could use to shut down negative smart contracts, probably thinking about child porn or protecting children or whatever it is, right? Every other person who I know who's a technologist, maybe a little bit of a hacker, said a kill switch, anybody could use that. Anybody could shut down their competitors. Anybody could be a kid just griefing some people, wrecking markets, wrecking contracts, having them not run. The programmers themselves could screw up. It could access the kill switch. It's a disastrous idea all over. And like Adam Meister was saying, clearly a brain drain on the EU. People are going to move out. Programmers are not going to stick around. They have the money. They have the laptop. They can go somewhere else. Maybe even Vitalik himself would leave the EU. So it's a disastrous idea, but one worth mentioning because this is how they try to deal with Bitcoin and crypto and other things is they look in the toolbox, like, what do we have that we did last time? Well, kill switch. Well, let's attach that on there. See if that fixes it. And they have no idea what they're doing, but all they have is what's in the toolbox. That's all there is. Yep. Let's move on to the next issue. I think it's issue 5. Bitwise is hopeful for a spot Bitcoin ETF, but sees no path forward at the SEC now. The SEC has just rejected the Van Eyck Bitcoin ETF again, saying that they believe the underlying asset could, quote unquote, be manipulated, just like gold and silver and diamonds and everything else, who also has an ETF. Remember, everyone, we've talked about ETFs for it seems like a decade now. It's a really simple idea. Instead of buying Bitcoin directly, you could buy a stock like Bitcoin/ETF, the stock. They would hold the Bitcoin for you. You would get the gains. This allows people who have money in their 401k retirement accounts where you can donate before taxes and get more money and invest to invest in Bitcoin directly. For a long time, people said the grayscale thing was good enough, but now we see they're in crisis. They might not even have the Bitcoin. They have company problems and other things. It's a simple idea. Bitcoin ETF, you put the Bitcoin in the vault. Gold ETF, you put the gold in the vault. You let the people buy the gold with their retirement funds. I'm frankly sick of this. I don't think they're ever going to give it to us. And I think it's become discriminatory and ridiculous. Adam McBride, what do you think about the continued rejection of the Bitcoin ETF? At first, it was like minor players asking for the ETF. Now it's huge players, and even the huge players are being rejected.
I'm with you 1,000,000%. And literally, this is the in crew saying no to the out crew. This is like old finance saying no to new finance. And that's it. It's that simple. They're not going to let it in. And we all recognize that now. And you just move forward. You have to buy Bitcoin as Bitcoin. And so, yeah, it takes away all the 401ks and all that sort of stuff. And you move forward. You recognize the reality for what it is, which is old money is not going to give up that control without a big, big fight. And so the lines are being drawn in the sand, man, and choose your side.
People had their chance. If they were going to buy Bitcoin with their retirement, they would have bought it by now. They would have figured it out. Adam Meister, what do you think about the Bitcoin spot ETF?
2 things. All the younger people out there, don't get into the mindset where you think you need a third party to own something for you, that you need something, an official title like an ETF to make it kosher for you. Own the underlying asset. When anyone asks you to invest in their Bitcoin business, I just tell them I want to own the underlying asset. I only buy Bitcoin. I'm not going to buy your Bitcoin in Africa company. It's the same thing with the ETF. Now, the funny thing about the ETF, and Thomas stole my thunder a little bit on this, you know you're a freaking OG when you can remember back in the 2016 when it was like next year they're going to approve this ETF thing. We can admit we are men. We can admit we were wrong. We've learned our lesson because every year you think it's coming next year. It's not. It just it keeps going on and on. But the Bitcoin price, back when we started talking about it, Bitcoin was like $600, and we thought the ETF's going to be the key to taking this thing to the moon. It will help. It will help because these old normies who are dying off just can't grasp owning the underlying asset. They have to do it through their 401k, which could be, by the way, the government could say, hey, instead of bailing out banks, we're going to take haircuts from 401ks, and then you'll be real happy you waited for the ETF then, won't you? That now the government's haircutting 401ks, but this is the lesson. Just get used to it. If you're new to the space, get used to, like, next year they're going to approve the ETF, and it's not going to happen. Thomas and I have heard this story 8 years in a row, so it is very tiresome at this point. Very tiresome.
I very much agree with Meister. We wanted that retirement money so bad. We talked about how all these funds were going to flow in, and all these people who are not, Bitcoin investors would get their chance to take a play at it. But it's not happening now. There's not going to be an ETF. And if you go back far enough, if you're really old school, you have like stock certificates, and you don't even have to hold those in the bank. And you can have Microsoft and Apple and all your other stocks and have the physical certificate yourself. But then you can't day trade. You can't get in and out all the time. So normally in the exit question, we'd ask, is there going to be a Bitcoin ETF, spot Bitcoin ETF? But no, there's not going to be one. I don't care anymore. I'm done with your retirement money. If you were trying to invest in Bitcoin, you would have figured it out by now. Coinbase, other things are really easy to use. You have lots of options. It's not that bad. So let's move on to issue 6. 4 things every artist needs to know to understand Bitcoin Network's update for native NFTs. Yes, Ordinals just made it into Rolling Stone magazine. How about that? Rolling Stone warns that the Ordinals Bitcoin's not really designed for Ordinals. It could challenge the small blockers. It obliterates Bitcoin's original intent of just being a monetary system, could cause price costs to rise, which some have said could even solve the no fees for mining thing, the 2130 problem. And then others say it opens the door to spam, bloatware, militia data, and of course, socially unredeeming artifacts, which is a beautiful way to describe, I don't know, pornography, hate, violence, whatever else you wouldn't want on your network. Let's first go to Adam McBride. What do you think about Bitcoin Ordinals? We talked about them going up, going down, kind of stagnating. There's a lot of discussion on this. What do you think about Ordinals?
I think maybe Ordinals fix Bitcoin, man. I think in a lot of ways, we've been talking about Ordinals. I had Casey on my show last September. So we've known about what he's been building on Ordinals or on Bitcoin for a long time. And I think in a lot of ways, it's a shot across the bow for old school Bitcoin culture. And I think so Bitcoin's kind of going through some growing pains right now, which is you have the OGs who've been around a while, and Bitcoin's money, and that's it. And you have other people, mainly NFT guys, who are coming in and saying, well, it can be something else too, along with being money. And so there's going to be some challenges here, no doubt. But I think certainly the people who want to stop it, I believe that ship has already sailed. And so Ordinals, whether it's just silly JPEGs and pictures 3 or 4 years from now, or it's moved into something else, it's a very possible. So, but I think the idea of Ordinals protocol and the way it's working, I think that's pretty sound. And I think that's already happened, and there's no taking it back now. And so, how Bitcoin as a culture moves forward with it, knowing that it is part of the reality now, is going to be interesting. And there's a lot of back and forth. I'm in some great chat rooms with different, Bitcoiners, and hearing different, sides of the story and the way they feel about it. But I can tell you one thing, there's been more building on Bitcoin and this is from OGs even telling me this, there's been more building on Bitcoin in the last 2 months than there was in the previous 5 years on Bitcoin. The amount of innovation that's coming to Bitcoin right now, just as far as simple things like wallets, that sort of stuff is happening because Ordinals and the money that's come in looking to find and fund new projects. So I think even for traditional Bitcoin maxi, that has to be like, oh, okay, this is actually helpful for onboarding those next billion people that we're talking about.
Well, fortunately, we get to play Ask a Traditional Bitcoin Maxi. Adam Meister, what do you think of Ordinals?
Compete, don't complain, baby, and pound that like button. I love it. Doesn't hurt anybody. I got 3 things to say about the situation, baby. And one, yeah, it does partially solve some FUD that people like to say, how will the miners make money in 2080, 21? There you go. Okay, there's some fees right there. Number two, I did a show on mentioning that the mainstream media hadn't covered ordinals yet at all. And now Rolling Stone has. Now they're not as main, they're as big as they used to be, to say the least. But I just want everybody to imagine when the normies find out about ordinals. Nobody knows about ordinals yet outside the space. Nobody knows about it yet. That will help Bitcoin. When the normies know they can do their NFTs on Bitcoin, and it's more valuable than an Ethereum, because the innovation that's already starting. Like, we're seeing the beginning of something big. This isn't something that's just going to disappear overnight. I commend Casey. And third, to all the OGs out there that are like offended, that are part of the Bitcoin, the Bitcoin Inquisition, basically, that everything must be pure or you will be sent to the Bitcoin Inquisition. Jimmy Song should make a fork of Bitcoin. He should make Jimmy Bitcoin. That you can't do ordinals. You can't do, and let's see how it goes. And people are saying, oh, Jimmy Song's such a big name in the space. Big names in the space never betray Bitcoin. Oh, it was 6 years ago today. We were so worried about Bitcoin, supposedly Jesus, making his own Bitcoin, which he eventually did, called Bcash. And look how that turned out. So bring on Jimmy Song, Crypto Dividend, or whoever wants to fork it off. Again, compete, don't complain. If you hate ordinals, fork it off, make your own Bitcoin that has no ordinals, and great, that's awesome. I wish you the best in the world, because I practice what I preach, decentralization. I am a confident decentralist. So if you don't like it, go do your own thing. We'll get a free crypto dividend out of it. But no, I personally think it's great. So there you go.
Yep, I think it's actually great to hear, and that there is a large group of they're not the majority maybe, but there are people who are like, well, this is a cool use case, and so I think that's the general vibe, and so it's nice to see some OGs getting behind it too, and moving the ball forward for Bitcoin, because I do feel, I always kind of pound this point, it's like, for everybody, yes, Bitcoin, there is Bitcoin awareness in the world, but there's not Bitcoin adoption in the world. And to get to Bitcoin adoption, we need to bring the access, the ability to get to Bitcoin. It needs to be way, way easier than it currently is. And that's just for my normie friends. If I want my mom to hold Bitcoin, it's got to be dumb, stupid, easy, right? And so we need to get there, and that's going to take a lot of work. And to get back to those the plates again, pounding my seed phrase into plates, like, we got to get better than that. And I think ordinals help move that ball forward.
Obviously, I'm a big supporter of the idea of getting new people into Bitcoin through art. I helped launch the Curio Cards project in 2017, which pretty much had that idea. We were shouted down by many other people, including the Rare Pepes project, who said there should be nothing else except for Rare Pepes. And if you look at the NFT market today, they were clearly proven wrong. There are lots of other NFTs that are not Curio Cards and not Rare Pepes. So I do kind of worry about this a little bit. I'm not sure if it really works, and I'll give Adam McBride a chance to respond to this. I've heard things how you attach your note to the Satoshi, and then that's all good, right? You own the note, you own the Satoshi, but if you then wanted to sell it, I'm not quite sure that you transfer that Satoshi. So I'm not sure about the chain of passing it on there. And just in a general way, there's this idea in programming. I'm not an expert programmer or anything, but there's an idea where you're overloading operators and you're using something that's designed for something else and you're using it for your own plan. And a lot of that, I see this here where he's come along to Bitcoin, SegWit's there, these new features are there, and he kind of overloads them. And you saw Luke Dashir, he was very upset about this. He's like, you can't do it. And then the person in the comments like, but it follows the rules. He's like, but it's touching the rules, it's bending the rules. And for now, that seems fine. The program seems to work. And Bitcoin's very hard to edit. It's a complex problem, not like other programs. If this was Microsoft, whatever, they just turn you off. There still might be a way, I don't know the technical way, but the programmers could put some little line in somewhere in the next update that ruins all your ordinals. So you just got to be very careful when you do this kind of overloading operators, pushing the aspects of code that you don't know. But Adam, what have you heard about this Satoshi thing? Does it actually send it around?
Well, let me hit the first point, which was your last point, which was, hey, could they stop this? And the reality is, yes, they could. If enough people, if there was consensus around it, they could basically prune the nodes, right? And so basically people wouldn't be able to make new ordinals. That I heard is a possibility. But for people who already own ordinals, guess what they say? They say, awesome, do that. Can we do that today? Because that makes my first ordinals like extremely valuable from a collectability standpoint. So there's that, just to let you know that there's that going on. As far as what it is technically, the way I've described it is basically, first of all, he made up something, and you could make up a new ordinals protocol. It's Mad Bitcoin's ordinal protocol. And rather than first in, first out, it's last in, last out, or last in, first out, or whatever. I mean, it's basically an agreed upon reality. This isn't something, and it's different than Bitcoin itself in that this is an agreed upon reality that doesn't have its root necessarily in Bitcoin, meaning without the protocol, you can't really figure out who owns which ordinal, right? But we've already had the moment, like everybody agrees on this. And so we're all agreeing on basically, yeah, that this one sat out of this block of 10,000 is attached to this inscription, right? And now the wallets can all track this one sat, right? And so literally back to the birth of Bitcoin, they've now mapped every sat in existence. And so, yeah, the ordinal is inscribed, connected to that one Satoshi. And you can track these things now all over the Bitcoin network, and people are actually going back into, swapping out Bitcoin. I know a guy who's swapping out 2 Bitcoin at a time with exchanges to search through those brand new fresh Bitcoin that he gets, looking for old sats from 2009, right? Because he knows he can take those sats and sell them to artists or founders of new projects who want to mint their new ordinals on those old sats. It's crazy. And we've only just begun. We're 6 weeks into it, but that's kind of where the market is right now.
Yeah. See, I'd heard that guy on your show or something, and I thought that was pretty absurd. I thought that was pretty laughable.
It's absurd, but look, this is isn't it interesting if you had Satoshis that were transferred from Satoshi Nakamoto to Hal Finney? There's a block of 10 Bitcoin that was transferred. Isn't it interesting if you had some of those and you wanted to create an ordinals project and it was all minted on those Satoshis? That's just a new, interesting way for artists and founders to play around. And that's kind of what's happening in the ordinal space right now.
It reminds me of something else about the NFT space, where kind of just every side project, every half done, not finished project anyone did in the past is now like a huge deal. And Adam and his crew will go out there and find it. We discovered a broken project that never launched. And then they get all excited about it. It's like, I have lots of broken projects that never launched. I just put them on a blockchain or whatever. So it is funny to see that, and to see that kind of, it's not even the past. It's like 5 years ago. It's not that long, but they call them historical, and they act like we can't even talk to the original people. They're like, what strange things did the ancients put these things on the blockchain for? We don't know. But
well, I'm certainly not calling ordinals historical, but we do get this vibe that it's Bitcoin, and everybody, loves Bitcoin. Everybody in the space loves Bitcoin, right? It's the king chain, right? And so this new thing on Bitcoin, that's why it's exciting. It's being able to make my little inscription on Bitcoin is it's a big deal. And I think when artists got the idea of like, hey, I can have something tied to a blockchain that I feel is going to live beyond me. And now that you can do that on Bitcoin easily, people get really excited for that. This idea of being able to write my name in concrete, and the hardest concrete in the world is the Bitcoin network, and I can make my little mark there. Don't underestimate how powerful that is for people.
I do wonder if they went a little too far, though. Maybe putting the ordinal on there, the inscription on the Satoshi, that's all good. But then putting the image into the archive nodes or whatever, it seems like if you just put it on IPFS or any kind of the standard systems, you don't have to bother with using all the space on Bitcoin.
Love on-chain, man. On-chain just, it digs to the core of us NFT guys, man. We love that
Well,
stuff.
and as Meister was saying, if every sat is unique now, I'm surprised that Jimmy Song is against this, because as I recall, he was one of the first components of colored coins, which was that first idea of being able to mark these sats. But Adam, I think you have more. You have a question. Go ahead, Meister.
Yeah, for the group, because there are a lot of people that are like, oh, they snuck this in. I wouldn't have approved the last BIP had I known this.
Yeah.
It could be positive in terms of the ossification of the BIP process. People are not going to trust BIPs anymore, so none might be approved, and Bitcoin just might stay the way it is forever now, out of paranoia from paranoid people like Luke Dash Jr. If you saw what he was wearing at the Bitcoin conference in Miami, come to the Bitcoin conference in Miami this year. Who knows what he'll be wearing? My Lord, how can anyone believe that dude after what they saw him wearing? Anyway, the point is this: what do you guys think about a possible speeding up of ossification because of this?
McBride, go ahead first. I'll go after you.
Honestly, I have no idea, man. I have no idea. You Bitcoin guys argue about Bitcoin, and I'll be making JPEGs and enjoying the ride. I have no idea whether or not this is going to happen or ossify Bitcoin or not. I just love the creators making new stuff. I think that, studying the blockchain and the history of NFTs and stuff over the last, decade has shown me that people trying new stuff is the thing that gets us to really good things. And so whether or not we all care about ordinals in a year or 2 years, it doesn't really matter to me, because it's people trying new things using public blockchains, and that's exciting.
I do think we're kind of hearing the last laugh of the anti-SegWit, the big blockers or whoever they were. They're like, don't change it. Don't change Bitcoin. Don't move the witness. Even Bitmain with the ASIC boost program, they had a reason to not change Bitcoin, to keep the witness in there. But as you see, moving the witness out leads to this situation where the guy can come in and kind of take advantage of the situation and to put his ordinals into the witness, so on and so forth. I agree with Meister. I think it's going to slow Bitcoin development as far as new features. People are going to really take a look at these and try to think, hopefully, outside the box about what else could happen, what else could be done with this that we're not seeing yet. Meister, what do you think? You agree? Is it going to shorten Bitcoin control?
I think, my opinion, I hope it does. I want the BIP process to be slowed down. We don't need, I don't like changing any little teeny aspect of it, because something really could sneak in when you have developers like Luke Dash Jr. who are insane, working on it and stuff. I'm sorry. I mean, that scene, once I saw him wearing that gas mask, I realized this is the biggest attack point on Bitcoin. These developers, this is Bitcoin's weakest spot. Someone could go crazy, like this man has clearly went crazy. And someone to take advantage of it and make sure. So if there are no more changes, then we don't have to worry about crazy developers adding in secret things. Now, and I don't think this wasn't snuck in there. Casey just figured it out. That's all he did. I love the innovation too. I love it. Let's innovate with what we got. I love that. But I do worry about programmers sneaking stuff in there. Not that this was snuck in there. So let this create a little bit of paranoia and possible ossification. I think that's something positive that could come, in my opinion, something positive that could come out of this.
Well, maybe they'll have more BIPs and more action on Jimmy Coin. Maybe people will be happier over there. All right, I think we're running out of time. We're going to head towards prediction or story of the week. Adam McBride, do you have a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Story of the week, I'd say from the ordinal side would be the Yuga drop. So the Yuga drop 12-fold sold out. Two Bitcoin was like the minimum bid on that. They sold 288 pieces, $16 million. The first secondary sales just took place in the last 24 hours. There's been about four secondary sales, all on Ethereum, using Emblem Vault, for generally about 15 ETH less than the people paid One guy took a 1 Bitcoin bath on his ordinal. So we're starting to see people flip out. They've all been less than mint or less than inscription price. So that's kind of the story of the week in the NFT space.
Making new NFTs does sound like such a good idea. I remember when curio cards were discovered and the first thing they said is, we're never making any more NFTs. I said, my God, why did I make an NFT company? What were we thinking? Like we were going to make 30 and quit forever. That's just what we wrote in our proposals. So our 31 even. Adam Meister, do you have a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Yeah, I got 3 real quick points. I don't make short-term predictions, but a long-term prediction is Bitcoin always returns to its all-time high. It will be there eventually, probably 2025. So you just got to be a long-term thinker there. Number 2, these shirts. I love shirts. FOMO 21, baby. Got set me up with this one. Neil at FOMO 21. Look it up. It's on Twitter, on all that stuff. And number 3, story of the week is it goes back. I mentioned this, alluded to this beforehand. It was on St. Patrick's Day in 2017. I had a This Week in Bitcoin show going on very late at night, and BTC Benny was on, and so Vortex and Ansel Lindner were on, and we got the news that Vinny Lingham would suddenly come on the show after an hour. We were done, but Vinny started scaring everybody about the possible, fork that could happen. Roger Ver, Jihan Wu. He's mentioning these names. Roger Ver owns Bitcoin.com. That's a big thing. Then we got Tone to come on and Blake Anderson to come on. And it was the only, is the best show in history of all my shows. It's again, look it up for yourself, 2017, St. Patrick's Day, this very day. And people were legitimately worried because Roger was so big that he could do something really bad to Bitcoin. And that was the last time anybody had that worry. I was on the phone with people until like 3 a.m. that night. I was like, what is going on? Vinny Lingham's scaring people. Vention Migdal, who has since passed away, sold half his Bitcoin because he watched the show. He probably lost over $1 million in the long term because of that mistake. But the lesson learned is that no one person controls it. At the same time, another lesson is that was scary for us then. It shows what small scale we were. We were worried about some guy named Roger Ver. That's what he's become, some guy named Roger Ver. No one even knows who Blake Anderson is anymore, and he's a great man. But now we have like Elizabeth Warren, who could become president of the United States. Like her main fixation is cryptocurrency. She wants to be the most powerful person in the world in terms of politics. And her main worry, her main thing that she's against is basically Bitcoin. And it just shows how small potatoes things were really then. And just when someone, if you look back and you were fudded out back then, that what strong hand really means. Now you see what it means. It's only going to get worse, people. They're going to be bigger people. They're going to be bigger threats than Elizabeth Warren. And you're going to feel more isolated as it gets bigger sometimes. But it all works out in the end. We laugh at the uncertainty that we had back then, and you'll laugh at Elizabeth Warren one day too. But if you hold your Bitcoin, you'll be laughing all the way to the bank in your Lamborghini just to wave at the bank. Bye bye.
It is funny. I recall one of the things that we worried about then was the other side, Bcash, actually taking control of the Bitcoin name. So Roger owned the Bitcoin.com exchange, and clearly he could just change it there. And I think he did. And we could even go to Coinbase. And at a time we were worried that they might change Bitcoin to Bcash, which is, from a user perspective, a complete disaster. You go there, you buy Bitcoin, you think it's Bitcoin, you send it to your Bitcoin wallet, it errors out because it's Bcash, which used the same address table as Bitcoin. So it would be a successful send, but then it would be the wrong stuff. So that was scary. It was scary that they could take the brand name because, as we all know, Bitcoin doesn't really have a copyright over the name or the graphics. Satoshi disappeared. There's no company there. So they had a very serious attack. They had a very good chance of taking over Bitcoin and reshaping it into what they wanted. But like Adam said, they lost. They're gone. And now there's much bigger fish to fry.
Consensus matters.
It's a good point to end the show on. So thanks to everybody for joining us, giving us a thumbs up, give us a comment down below, push subscribe. And until next time, bye-bye.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.